Okay, key issues to look into when you're working as a door supervisor. Before you start your shift, communication starts with the way you're dressed. Are you dressed adequately? Do you have the correct uniform on? Do you have a full uniform on? And does it look well? Right? Checking to see that before you went in, personal hygiene is being looked at. Did you have a wash before you go in? You know, wearing a small amount of cologne before you go in. Are shoes shined? There's no tears in clothing? Because if you're working as the door supervisor, you might not notice it, but during a shift, you could be removing someone from a premises. You could snag a shirt in a wall, in a doorway on the way out, and this rip looked desperate if you were working and you're acting as an agent on behalf of a licence holder, so you're his representative on the ground. So take into consideration before you start work what way you appear. Now that's just appearance and communication. The second part of that, which is equally as important, is the clothing adequate for the work at hand? So if you're standing on the door for 8 hours a night, you have to ensure that your footwear is appropriate for standing on the door 8 hours on a winter's night. So if it doesn't have the correct amount of insulation, you're going to get the cold coming up through your shoes into your feet, and this will hinder your ability to work. It'll cool you down. If you start to get cold, the shift's going to become very long. Your attention is going to be taken away from observational skills that you'll need, and it'll be diverted into the fact that your feet are cold. Is your jacket adequate? If you've ever had to try to remove somebody from a nightclub, you're going to need all your faculties, your hands especially. If you've been standing for a prolonged period of time, exposed to cold weather, and you don't have an adequate jacket on, that's going to hinder your ability to perform in there. Now, each particular site will have different uniforms. But if you think before you go in, if the uniform that they present you with, so for example, you could be wearing a Crombie jacket, it might not hold the heat. Well then, make it your responsibility to purchase clothing that goes under. You can get thermal vests, etc. to go underneath the uniform. The uniform still looks pristine on the outside, but underneath then you're kept warm. That's a huge part of your job. 8 hours a day, if you're not adequately dressed, it'll make them 8 hours drag in. Okay? So how you're dressed and how you stand is the next part. Your stance communicates something. For years I've told people, if there's a doorman standing here and the legs are crossed and he looks unstable or the legs are too close together and he's telling guys, sorry guys, not tonight, it can give away the impression that I'm easily moved, because first of all, I'm not stable to start off, but subconsciously it tells them that I might be easily moved. You can, with a smile on your face, say to the same crowd, sorry guys, not tonight, but the stance is communicating something totally different. So having a stable stance, because the last thing you need is someone even inadvertently bumping into you and you falling over because you were standing with legs crossed, feet close together, and just not basically taking in what's going on around you. So stance, the way you dress, and making sure that dress is appropriate for the work you're doing, the work you're carrying out that night. After we've done that, we're starting the shift. So the first thing I do is make sure I'm adequately dressed. I turn up 15 minutes early for my shift. Before I start the shift, I ensure that I'm signed in. Okay? I go in, that's a prerequisite for the PSA to ensure that every individual on site has their licence on their person and has signed in. If you get a visit from a PSA inspector, they're going to check to see that you've signed into the sign-in book when you're on site. So that's the first thing I do, sign in. Then I'm going to get one of the most important parts of my PPE, or personal protective equipment. I'm going to select the radio. So if you come in 15 minutes early, you're more likely to get the good radio. Select the radio, turn the radio on, get a second radio and do a radio check. Okay, you don't need a second person to do that radio check. You can put the radio across the room, turn away, push the top button and just, say radio check. You'll hear it on the other one, and then put your radio back down and check to see the speaker works. Then I would put the radio on my belt, I'd wear myself up with the earpiece in, and I'd continue to do the same thing again to check to see my earpiece is functioning. So now that's functioning and I have the wires fixed away into the shirt. Now I'm ready to start the shift. So I'll walk back down to the position, but before I start, I'm going to do a patrol of the premises, checking to see, are there people already in the nightclub or in the pub that shouldn't be there. So before I start my shift, I go around and have a quick look. Are there children on the premises? Is it 9 o'clock? Are they due to leave? Are they due to leave soon? Are there people on the premises that may have come in before the security guards have arrived and they haven't been asked to produce ID? So we might have to start the shift. So remember, when you start your shift, there may not have been security there all day, and you might have to go to somebody that's already sitting down with alcohol in front of them and check to see that they have ID on their person and that it's valid. So I do a patrol of the building, ensuring that everybody is checked for ID, there's nobody that's intoxicated, everyone it's dressed correctly. So, for example, maybe a dress code will be implemented at 8 or 9 o'clock when you come in, and it might be a prerequisite that people don't wear football jerseys, for example. Okay? Now, from a customer relations point of view, I wouldn't remove somebody if they've already had a drink in the pub, but I would inform them that after said hour, say 9 o'clock, it is company policy. I'd highlight on the wall where signage might indicate that, you know, jerseys are not allowed, and I'd say to them, look, enjoy the rest of the drink, but unfortunately, if you want to remain on the premises after extended hours, you're going to have to go away, get a shirt, t-shirt, whatever else. You just have to lose the football jersey, you know, if you want to stay here for the rest of the night. So I do a patrol first of all. On that patrol, I'd ensure to do my fire walk. So I check to see that the fire doors are clear and functioning, there's nothing obstructing the doors. It's very common in a nightclub that's not open all day for people to leave rubbish or to park a car in front of an emergency door because it's not being used during the day. It's not uncommon. On this patrol, you will identify these problems, ask, you know, staff members, move your car away from that emergency exit, make sure they're clear and functioning. Make sure the fire extinguishers haven't been used, removed or discharged. So check and see the pressure indicators are correct, the tabs aren't broken and the pins aren't removed. Are they in the correct spot? Is the foam extinguisher in the foam spot? Is the CO2 in the CO2 spot, etc. So you're going on checking this, checking to see all the brake glass units have not been broken. Okay? Checking to see that all the fire, the lighting is adequate throughout the venue, and checking to see that all the exit signs are illuminated and that the backup batteries are working. So once I've done that and my radio is working, I'll then proceed to where my designated working area is. Could be the front door, could be the side door, wherever it is. So the next thing you're going to encounter is access and egress. You're going to be letting people in and letting people out, and you're going to be refusing people entry. Now, there's the grounds you're going to refuse people entry on is if they're violent, abusive, insulting, threatening or quarrelsome. So violent, abusive, insulting, threatening or quarrelsome. They're the 5 grounds on which you're going to remove someone's right to be in a premises or restrict them access to the premises. So if they come up and they're acting in a violent fashion, if they come up and they're being abusive, if they're being threatening to people before they've actually done anything, they're acting in a threatening fashion, you know, insulting or just quarrelsome with you, just argumentative. You've asked them to produce some documents at the door such as ID, you've questioned them about their level of intoxication, and these are being very quarrelsome. That is a ground in itself to stop that individual, or if they're inside the premises, to take away their right to be there. Okay? So once you withdraw their invitation to be there, they become a trespasser if they're on site. Okay? I would take as much time as I possibly could to remove someone, because the last thing you want to do is have to put hands physically on somebody. But in the event they refuse to leave and are trespassing, they can be removed with the use of reasonable force. Okay? The lowest level of acceptable force. So it has to be acceptable, justifiable, proportionate, and not excessive. Okay, so I can't stress enough the minimum amount of force that you can safely remove that individual from the premises with, if it comes to that. 9 times out of 10, when asked to leave and you explain to them they won't be getting any more alcohol at the bar, they'll leave anyway. Okay, the next thing is level of intoxication. How much drink has a person had? Now, I'm not going to try to explain to you on this video ways and means to gauge how much drink a person has taken, because it's going to vary from person to person. But if in your opinion the person is drunk to such a degree that they might endanger themselves or others, at that point you should not admit them onto the premises, and if they're in the premises, you're legally obliged to ask them to leave. In my experience, 20 years doing door work, when I've indicated to somebody that they might have too much drink taken, in my opinion, their initial response is usually, I won't cause any trouble. Okay? Now I try, in a polite fashion, alleviate that worry and say, I don't doubt for 1 minute that you would cause any trouble, so. However, explain to them that in the event that they were to fall inside that venue while they were intoxicated, the venue and the security staff would be 100% liable for that, because we had a duty of care to ensure that nobody on the premises was intoxicated to such a degree that they might endanger themselves or others. If we allowed them to get that way and left them there that way, and they had a fall as a result of that, we would be 100% liable. And it's probably one of the most common claims that going against a nightclub. If you can politely explain this to someone, they think to themselves, you know what, I can see where you're coming from. They can't really argue with that. If you genuinely say, look, you know, I've no problem with you, you're in here every week, I've no problem letting you in again, or maybe if you go off, get something to eat, sober up, come back, fine. But right now, in my opinion, you have too much drink taken, and by that I mean you're intoxicated to such a degree you might endanger yourselves or others. You might cause someone else to fall. I'm not suggesting that you'll start a fight. So that's the way I would approach it, and I would do the exact same thing for drugs. I would steer clear of suggesting to somebody, especially in front of somebody else, that they had ingested drugs. I would just use the term intoxicated because you have defamation. So the wrongful publication of a false statement about a person is defamation. So for instance, if I say, buddy, you've taken too much drugs tonight, if the person beside them overhear this, then I've taken away their good character in front of that person. That's defamation of character, and that's also a fairly common claim that goes in against nightclubs. So I would stick to just saying, sir, in my opinion, you're intoxicated, okay? And then I would either make the decision that they're not coming in that night, or if you decide so, send them off, get something to eat, and come back. That would do that with alcohol. With drugs, this does not happen that night, okay? So we've said if a person is violent, abusive, threatening, insulting, or quarrelsome, that's reasons to stop them or remove them. If they're intoxicated to such a degree that they might endanger themselves or others, that's a second reason to stop them. Now, reasons you cannot stop somebody is under the Equal Status Act, gender, marital status, family status, sexual orientation, religion, age, disability, race, and membership of the travelling community. Them 9 reasons are rock solid. You cannot discriminate on them grounds. I explained in a previous video under section 15, paragraph 2 of the Intoxicating Liquor Act that states any action taken in good faith by or on behalf of the licence holder shall not constitute discrimination. In certain circumstances, if you stop somebody from, for example, Spain, because Spain is playing France, the pub is full of people from France and they have threatened that if a Spanish person comes in, they will, let all hell loose. For example, a Spanish person comes to the door dressed in full Spanish attire, you might choose for their safety and the safety of the pub not to allow them in. This is one of the grounds of the Equal Status Act that's protected. It's racial discrimination. However, you've seen, in your opinion and in good faith, you believe that by letting them in there you'll endanger their safety and other people's in the pub. So in good faith you're refusing them. Okay? So that's under section 15, paragraph 2. But remember the 9 reasons: gender, marital status, family status, sexual orientation, religion, age, disability, race, and membership of the travelling community. They're the 9 reasons you cannot discriminate against under the Equal Status Act. What can you discriminate against? Well, you can decide to set the bar as high as you like in relation to age. You can say over 18s, over 21s, over 30s, etc. But you cannot say under 21s, okay? Because we all have the capacity to become 21, 25, 30, 35, etc. But I can no longer become 18 again, okay? That means you directly discriminated against me. So you can say over 21s, 25, 30s and so on, but you cannot say under. You can also discriminate on aesthetic or cosmetic grounds. So you could say, I don't allow hats in here. You can say, I don't allow makeup coming in here. It's very unusual to say that, but you could set that rule once you stuck to it with the entire club. Okay? So once you stick to it across the board, you can't be done for discrimination. You can discriminate on aesthetic or cosmetic grounds. Okay? I've also heard in the workplace people saying we don't allow exposed tattoos, so they insisted that staff wore clothing to cover that up. That's company policy, that's fine. The next thing is, it's not unusual to have a dress code on the wall. The most common I've ever seen is neat casual dress. That's a catch-all phrase. Just basically means you dress neatly. Okay? Some places have it that no football jerseys allowed, etc. The important thing is, whatever the rule is, it has to apply to everybody across the board. You can't treat one person less favourably because that's considered direct discrimination. Okay? So after this, the main point you're going to look for is observation. So once you've initiated your shift, you've done all the safety protocols, you've done your fire walk, you've checked all the safety equipment, including your safety equipment, made sure you had your radio on your person, but ensure I had my notebook in my pocket, a pen. It depends on where you're working. I would have a flashlight, but if you don't have that, most phones have that on it. Phones are fantastic for taking a photograph of evidence if something is broke or injuries, etc. You need permission if you're in an enclosed area and you want to take a photograph of somebody, but just an example would be items that got damaged, such as criminal damage to the property. It's fantastic to have a phone with a camera. You can take photographs for your incident report later on, so they're handy to have. Most phones have torches on them. Okay? So other than this, you're going to be going around, I don't like saying the word policing, but monitoring the crowd to ensure that the safety protocols are adhered to. So one thing that stands out in my mind would be ensuring that everybody remains wearing their footwear. So women wearing high heels at about 2 in the morning tend to be getting blisters on the feet, and at that point they'll take them off. Some of them, with some foresight, have brought with them little slip-ons. That's fine. But if they're walking around their bare feet, let's think about this for a minute. At 2 o'clock in the morning in a nightclub, statistically speaking, if you've 1,000 people all carrying glasses in their hands, there's no way you're going to get a whole night without at least 3 or 4 glasses breaking on the ground. And even when you clean them up in that darkened environment, you might not see shards of glass and pieces of glass that have been left from a previous incident. So you might have a wet floor. Okay, so imagine the bacteria that builds up with fluids on the floor, everybody's shoes which have been trodden around on the ground outside before they got in, mixing with that fluid, and there you have shards of glass in it. That's going to penetrate someone's foot. You've now got a projectile in their foot with a load of bacteria in it. So first of all, they're going to get a laceration on their foot, and it's going to get infected. If you think about this, if you can explain this, that's going back to your communication skills. If you explain this to people, instead of taking the authoritarian approach and saying, you must do this, you must do that, if you say, look, this is the company policy, look, this is why we're doing it. It's common sense, we're doing it for your protection. And when you say that to someone, 8 out of 10 people will appreciate it, say, I can see where you're coming from. If I say, look, I'm doing this 20 years, in my experience, once a night, someone will step on glass. Once a night, someone will have a fall, at the club. If you explain this and say, look, we're looking out for you, we can make an exception for you because the rules are the rules. If you break it down that way, people tend not to get as offended. So you massage the ego a small bit. Okay, so looking out for the obvious things, like not wearing foot protection. If people are standing on other people's shoulders, tables, chairs, so they've more chance of risk of falling off. That's what you're sort of. I don't like using the word policing, but you're monitoring to see that people aren't engaging in conduct that might get themselves hurt, or they might trigger other people to get hurt, to fall on top of somebody, or fall into someone which could, cause a row to break out. So you're monitoring this as the night goes on. Ensure that, if you spot someone, a stitch in time saves 9. If you can see something before it happens, so if I spotted someone that was starting to get drunk, before they've got there, I might, catch them on the way to the toilet and say, listen, you're not drunk yet, but, take a handy because you're getting very close to being drunk. If you get the right communication skills and if you hone them skills, people appreciate that, respect it, and say, listen, I'll have a pint of water. And that usually, if post them once the right way, that's sort of for the night. Rather than let it get to the point where you have to ask them to leave, and then, not only do you have to escort this person out, you might resist, you might have to physically remove them, which is going to agitate their friends who might kick off later on, and you end up removing 3 people for the sake of one person being drunk. Be better to approach them, or in some cases approach the person that's with them. At a stag's party, you usually have the father-in-law or the father there. You can say, listen, I want you guys to have a good night. This guy here is getting very close to being drunk. Just keep an eye on it for me. Something like that. Without divulging someone else's personal information, if it's blatantly obvious that someone is starting to become intoxicated, you might just indicate, give him a nod, just point at the guy that's starting to get too intoxicated. If you can prevent this from happening before it gets to the point where he has to be removed, it makes your life a lot easier. The same goes for fights. If you can look down from an elevated position and spot before it happens a fight is starting to ensue. You've seen 2 people have a heated discussion, they walk away, they're coming back. If you walk over before they get back together and say, look, I don't know what went on there. I don't know who's in the right, who's in the wrong. But what I can tell you is when it kicks off, you're both going to get removed, they're going to remember you might be barred from here for a few weeks. Don't let it get to that. Instead of that, maybe go off, cool down for a while, and say it to one party, but then at a later stage I'd go and say it to the second party. And ensure that whichever one of you guys kicks off, they're going to be, barred from the nightclub maybe for a few days, a few weeks. If you catch it early on, they can see the error of their ways, calm down, and that's the end of it. But once it kicks off, then you're going to remove 2 people from 2 different parties, and this could end up with a messy, removal of up to 6 or 8 people. So keep this in mind beforehand. And another tip I would say to you is, at the end of the night, most of your problems happen on the egress of the nightclub. So at the cloakroom, that tends to be a choke point. So something to watch out for is, when everybody's starting to calm down, they're letting their defences down as in the security team, you're starting to get relaxed, you see the end of the shift, you're 15 minutes from the end, you're ushering people out, no one is expecting a row. But remember, at this point, early in the night, if you go up to guys and say, listen lads, if you keep that behaviour up, we'll remove you from the premises, that threat alone will stop them. That doesn't work at 2:30 in the morning. If it's 25 past 2 and you threaten to remove someone, they're walking out the door anyway. So they're more inclined to kick off because there is no threat being thrown out. So what I recommend to you is have security posted at the right. If you have a set of stairs, make sure the security guard posts at the top of them stairs so people don't fall down. Because they're more intoxicated at 2:30 than any other time of the night. And then also think about the cloakroom. The cloakroom is where people are going to congregate after. They're all trying to get their jackets. Some people are going to skip the queue. They skip the queue. Someone gets agitated with more drink on them than they have had all night. They're on their way home. They've nothing to lose. Maybe they're on a stag's party. They're from Cork or Donegal. They'll never be back to Dublin or Kilkenny again. So what have they to lose? So if you have guys in position before it even happens, you can just quell the flames before it becomes an issue. So as you see someone skipping the queue, oh sorry buddy, you're going to have to go to the back. There's a queuing system here for a reason. We don't want to have rows. If you see two people getting hot and heavy, you can call the security team and separate it before the fight happens. If you took away that one tip, especially when you start going up the ranks and you become maybe a senior door person or head doorman, it's worth thinking about the end of the night when you have no threat and when people are so full of drink that they're not thinking straight. Having your security team distributed around choke points such as the stairway, the door and the cloakroom makes a huge difference because you stop it before it happens. Because more commonly than anything else, security are scattered around the nightclub, standing, shouting, are you right there please, into mid-air, which is doing nothing for the crowd. Okay, if you had 2 or 3 designated doormen, just going around person to person explaining, folks, we just moved down this far here, we have to clear this area up and doing it stage by stage, that's sufficient to clear out a nightclub. You could have 6 or 8 men walking around shouting at the roof, are you right there please, it won't move the crowd, in my experience, much faster. I find if you go person to person, explain to them what you're doing, clean this area here, if you take your drinks, move down there, just do this all the way. By the time you get to the door, they'll finish their drinks anyway. And then I'd allocate the rest of the staff to places like the cloakroom, the top of the stairs, and at the front door. And then when they go out, make sure you get one of the team to do a quick sweep of the building, because in the 20 years I've been working the doors, I numerous times have people being left in a building that I've seen where the doormen, they're just mad to get home, everyone switches off, you walk away and you find out an hour later the cleaners are ringing up to say, listen, there's a guy fell asleep in the toilets, which thankfully, in my experience, you know, we can laugh about it the next week, nothing comes of it. But if someone woke up locked in a club for the night and they had no means of getting out, because sometimes when the building is completely empty, they will lock certain emergency doors. So they might not have a way of egress in that building, or might not know a way to. It could be a traumatic experience and it's a model for a claim. So definitely, when you're finished the shift, I would make it a point to clear out all the toilets, all the nooks and crannies of the pub, and then before you sign out on that notebook or use your thumbprint to clock out, I would then make sure that anything in my notebook is transferred into the incident report, and that incident report is gone off to the head office, you know, of the security company, or stored in the storeroom, wherever you keep your incident reports, because you want rid of that. If you leave it go another week, you won't remember the incident properly, and you're not going to be in any humour the following day to come into work early and start writing this down, and they'll build up, and at the very time that someone who's cut their foot, a claim will go in, and it's pointless writing an incident report after the fact, because you have to sign and date the bottom of it. And you could be asked, when did you write this? And if you wrote it, the date is incorrect on it, and they find it out in court, that's actually perjury. If you say that it was written on the 5th of April but it wasn't written until September, you can get reprimanded for that. So the sooner the better you get that report in for your own sake, and put the accurate date.